Hi, can everyone hear us okay on the phone?
Yep.
All right, awesome. Thank you for your patience and apologies that we had some room access issues as we were getting started with our call today. This is the April meeting for the Special Education Advisory Committee. We are so happy that you are all here. My name is Jennifer Cardillo. I am the chairperson for the Special Education Advisory Committee. I am the parent of a now 18-year-old at Tollgate High School in the alternate assessment program who is, cross fingers, about to graduate. Yay. And finally, after some persuasion, will now be going into the transition program. So we've had all sorts of excitement in our household, which is very typical for, as all of you on the call and in the room, anyone who has a child with disabilities in the district. So we're going to just go around and do some introductions. I'll start with the phone first. And Sean, I'm glad that you have the casual look in the evening. I understand Sean Wiggins is going to have the same similar casual look. So we're all good with that. Okay, so why don't you go first?
Sean Galligan, Warwick School Committee Chairman. I have two children in Holloman, one child at Welk. Two of my kids have IEPs. They were a big reason why I ran. Very supportive of special services in Warwick and super appreciative of WSEAC.
Megan?
Hi, Megan McQueen. I'm a special educator at Lippet.
Alyssa?
Hi, Alyssa Breyer. Hi, child is at Hoxie in kindergarten.
Yeah, nice to see you, Alyssa. And again,
Good to see you.
Megan.
I'm Bridget Camacho. My son is in kindergarten at Oakwood Beach Elementary.
Veronica Curley, my son's in 3rd grade at Scottsdale.
And Caitlin Regan, I'm an elementary LEA representative at Cedar Hill Elementary School and the secretary.
So thank you everyone for introducing themselves. As we go through our meeting today, we do have some background noise in the room that we're in, but just wave your hand if you're on the phone and you can't hear someone, and we will speak up. Hopefully that'll work fairly well for tonight's meeting. I'm just going to review our group norms. I think most of you have attended a call before, but just in case you haven't, because Veronica, I think this may be your first time.
It is not.
It is not. Okay,
No.
so you've heard my speech on group norms then.
Okay.
All right, you're ready for the speech?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So just to chat through those group norms, everyone's welcome to participate here. This is a very open discussion, open session. You can ask questions during any of the speakers' discussions during the meeting today. We just ask that, you keep in mind that every single one of us has come into this meeting with a different journey. We've gone through different journeys with our students. All of our students have had different disabilities. We've all had different experiences that we've played, and that means that all of us are going to have a very unique point of view. So as we come into discussions, that just keep that in mind, listen, understand, and we can all learn a lot from each other as we go forward. So, we're all going to disagree at some point. That's totally fine. We expect that. Just disagree without being disagreeable. So, and the last thing I would remember is that this is not a parent support group. We want to make sure that we're preserving everyone's anonymity, especially for your students. There's a lot of us in here who have students with medical conditions. Those type of things should really not be discussed during a meeting. More generalities related to district policy, the practices, some of your experiences. Just make sure you don't mention, as you're talking about your experiences, just don't get into anything that could be very private, if that makes sense. Okay. Any questions about the group norms? Okay, great. So Caitlin's going to bring up our meeting minutes from our last meeting.
And I wasn't sure, I missed the last meeting, so I wasn't sure if you guys have already.
We've already done those, and so I think we might be missing a set of meeting minutes that I need to get out from.
So the last meeting I have was from December, so we already?
We've already accepted.
Okay, well then there we go. We'll move on from that.
Okay. So that means I'm actually probably owe everybody a meeting minute from either January or February. I can't remember which meeting it was. And so apologies for that one. Definitely have had the usual special education illnesses in our family, and also as Sean knows, I broke my hand for a little bit there too. So we will make sure during our May call that is part of just making sure that we accept those also. Okay. For the Director of Special Services report, unfortunately, like many knows, there's a lot of illnesses going around, and that has impacted our ability to have one of the Special Services team members here tonight. So, but we can hopefully go on to the Director of the School Committee report since Sean's here. Hopefully Sean Wiggins will be able to call back in. I did text him and let him know that we finally got into the building, but actually he is here now, so if we want to wait a minute or two, we can have him present the report, and then Sean, you can jump in too. Where should I tell him we're at? Caitlin's going to go wave Sean in. I can see the professionalism standards are very high during our call today. Definitely on the casual side.
It's just that time of year, just that aftermath of the holidays and the sickness. I mean, it's new to me coming to this meeting when it's daylight. I'm like, it's daylight. Like, it's dark.
Yeah, so hopefully we will be in a much better spot. So
Karen will be perfect.
I think all of us on this call have given up the perfection part a long time ago. So, Alyssa, go ahead.
I have a general question, so while we wait, maybe it's a good time to do it. Correct. So I got this list of acronyms, which was very helpful that we discussed getting put together, and I got that from Caitlin this past week. That's great. I love that resource. I do have one question that kind of came from that. So an IEP is an individual education plan. An ILP, what is that, and what is the difference of that versus the IEP? Would a child ever have both at the same time, or are they very separate things?
That is actually a really good question. And I'm going to hold that. Caitlin?
I don't see him out there, so.
What's the question right now about an IEP?
Yeah, I think you'll know the
versus
answer
an
to this.
ILP?
So an ILP is an individual learning plan, which is something that I don't know too much about it because it's something secondary does, and I'm in elementary. But I know it is something that like high school, once you start talking about like transitioning to adult, I think it's more towards things like that.
Okay, so typically a child would never have an elementary program anyway. A child would never have an IEP and an ILP at the same time or anything like that.
Right. Elementary school, we don't do ILP. The only other acronym that you'll see on your IEP, there's a little box that checks off, is a PLP.
Okay.
And the
What's that?
PLP,
Personalized learning plan?
a PLP is a personal literacy plan. So any student who has a reading goal in their IEP will have a personal literacy plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that could pop up over the course of elementary school or junior high, but probably never see an ILP until they were getting ready to transition
Yeah,
out.
I'm not sure if it's middle school, high school, but
Great, thank you.
beyond elementary.
I'll vouch that I haven't seen it yet, but to your point, Caitlin, I'm actually probably just about to see an ILP since my daughter's going into the transition program. So that'll be a new acronym for me. So,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. I think we've still lost Sean, number one. Hi, Sean.
Finance secretary. So no, that's not it.
Hi, Sean.
Nope.
All right.
Yeah, keep going, buddy. You're almost there. I don't exactly know get in the building.
He's in the parking lot.
Is he over by the sledding hill?
We're the corner of the building closest to the tennis courts and stuff, back right hand corner of the building. Here in the basement. First, like Caitlin's gonna come try. Are you outside? All right, Caitlin's coming to save you. Caitlin, he's outside. All right, I'll. Can't find good help anymore.
Oh, he's coming. I feel so terrible. I can't even tell you.
I love that.
I'm just wearing a sweatshirt though. I'm feeling really out of it at the present moment.
I had to put something on. I was freezing. The cold's going right to my bones. I don't know what it is today.
Yeah. I just bought an Eeyore sweatshirt. It's really cool. I'll wear it during my next meeting. So, but that probably would have been the one I grabbed. Oh, Sean, I'm so sorry. We're not usually quite this disorganized. Usually quite the opposite, to be honest.
Okay.
So we just made it to the Director of Special Services report that we had to hold, and that because, there's a lot of illnesses going around, and unfortunately that's affected that team. So we're moving on to the school committee report, which I know has been quite active. We thought we should wait for you to at least start. Sean is more than happy to continue, whichever one of you would like to lead.
Oh, Sean,
I see
please.
we're having a scare off at the present moment.
We'll let the better Sean go.
Oh, you're on mute, Sean.
Because he was talking to me on the phone.
Good. So you didn't get to hear anything I just said about Sean. We'll start with finances. Fiscal year 24, we've just nearly completed the reconciliation of. Looks like we're going to finish that with around a $400,000 surplus. So initially they were anticipating a $1.2 million deficit, but there were things that were coded to the wrong line items. And then obviously some other actions taken by the school committee with moving funds backwards and forwards, and some will call it the shell game or sleight of hand. But fiscal year 24 will end with around a $400,000 surplus. Fiscal year 25, last we reported, was approximately a $6.89 million deficit. However, we've instituted additional controls. It's looking like there's a possibility that we're going to have a very small deficit, and one which I would actually argue is reasonable, given that we run a lean budget to begin with, and we brought back a substantial amount of employees that were supposed to be let go as part of the FY25 budget. So a lot of work's been done by the school department and the school committee. We've had a large volume of meetings for first quarter, like never before. At one point, we were meeting every 2 weeks publicly to make cuts. So Mr. Wiggins certainly got baptism by fire in his first 90 days. The finance department is great. It's staffed now. We've got one of the best finance directors coming in the state in 2021. He was named business administrator for public school systems. We're stealing him from East Providence. He has a 90-day clause in his contract, so he'll be full-time come June, but he's going to start over April vacation, getting acclimated, and then he's going to give 1 day a week for the remainder of April, 2 days a week in the month of May, and then he'll be about 3 to 4 days a week at the start of June, and at the end of June, when his 90-day period hits, he'll be at full-time. We're very lucky. His name's Craig Enos. He's starting with us, as I mentioned, next week. And we're very fortunate to have him. In addition to that, we've got a staff accountant on board now, which will help us with more accurate journal entries and more timely journal entries, so that the school committee and school district can act upon a more representative statement. Picture if you had a bank account statement and you looked at it today, if you opened up like a Bank of America app, you'd be like, that's what you expect is in your bank account, and you can plan what you're going to spend for the day or spend for the week. That's how the school committee was operating. However, if the information that you have is not up to date because all journal entries aren't in and there's encumbrances that have yet to be booked, well, then you're technically way behind that number. And then all of a sudden it catches up at year's end. You start fiscal year 25 in a bad spot. Your budget wasn't built on the proper foundation. It just balloons and there's your deficit. So that's essentially what has occurred here in fiscal year 25. And it required us to make some very difficult decisions, play catch up, slow spend, and all that fun stuff. Fiscal year 26, the budget's been developed. The team did a great job. It was presented to the administration, presented it to us via email on April the 1st. The school committee will be reviewing that budget on April the 17th. As always, We have a very special education focused school committee because we have, a prior professional that worked within special services as a TA, and several members of the committee with children who are required special services at one point or currently require special services. So that is one thing that we are very much supportive of and hypercritical of to make sure that the kids are getting exactly what they need and exactly what they deserve. So that's going to be reviewed. One caveat that I would make is that effective as of last week, the Warwick Public Schools Budget Commission legislation became in effect. So essentially, if you asked Mr. Wiggins and I today for $1, we could say yes, but then we have to look at you and say, but wait, give us a minute. We have to go ask someone else for approval to release that $1. The Budget Commission has oversight of all general operating funds. So some might say, well, what about grant funds? Doesn't matter. We first pay the grant expense with general operating funds, and then we get reimbursed afterwards with the grant money, and then we get balanced out. So because we have to use general funds initially, it would go through the Budget Commission for approval. So the Budget Commission is in effect, though at this time, there's only 2 individuals that have been confirmed. That would be the school committee's appointment and the school administration's appointment. The 3 mayoral appointments need to get confirmed by the city council. So until they get confirmed, the Budget Commission that is bound to Open Meetings Act cannot meet. So essentially, we're at a point where unless the city wants to not follow their own legislation, bills won't get paid. And if you're thinking about it here for a second, yes, that includes payroll. So that's a big issue. And at this moment, the city has accepted basically paying all of our bills and approving it until the Budget Commission becomes in effect. So that's all things finances. The transition program, we've gotten some fantastic feedback of late. It's great. I would be lying to you if I didn't say I was mortified. Wasn't mortified in the January meeting when we had some parents get up to the microphone. And so to get emails back is that they're thrilled, they're happy with the changes that are being made. It's a relief. And I'm glad to hear that, like, we took that community input and we acted upon it and as quickly as possible. The transition program has requested to come forward and present to the school committee on all the changes that they've made. And I just, today, we just started building the May agenda. So they will be presenting at the next meeting, all of the changes they're making or will make, things that have occurred thus far. So that's what's going on with the transition program. Tomorrow night at Welk, they have a fantastic STEAM night going on at 5:30. So that's exciting. They're doing great things over there at Welk. Mr. Wiggins and I went through Hoxie today and said hi to everyone. And 2 weeks ago, Sean, we visited Warwick Neck and we went through the school there. So we're trying to get in and out of the schools as much as possible to figure out what the teachers need, what the special educators need, how we can better service them, what challenges they may be facing. So in closing, the next 2 school committee meetings will be April 17th, 5:30 p.m. at Warwick Veterans Middle School. That's the budget hearing. Again, that's 5:30 p.m. So certainly if there are things within that budget that you want protected, that you want to keep, please, please, please come out and say a few words. There will be public comment. There's one person who wants to speak on vows to make sure that money gets protected. I say you have to come, get as many people as you want, have them come and say, I really hope you protect this, because just remember, the school committee's job isn't to make cuts. It's to get as much money as possible. Mr. Wiggins and I, with young kids in the school, see the value in all these dollars. Our job is to make sure it's spent wisely and not spent poorly. So we're certainly going to protect every dollar possible within that budget. But just this year is unique because that budget leaves us and it goes elsewhere. So have parent input on the budget is more important this year than ever before, because any other year you would speak directly to the school committee and they would take action on it. This year, your comments, you're speaking through us to another entity. So I can't urge people enough You must come out on the 17th, and they challenge TAs. They being the people that are challenging Warwick Spend. They don't understand special education. They don't understand IEPs. They don't understand the need to have TAs to balance out classroom. It is super, super imperative. It's not just the school committee doing this, that people truly understand that the school committee is advocating for people like you, and we need you to come out and get on the record that evening and say something. So that is April 17th, 5:30 p.m. The general public can speak before the meeting begins. And then our next regular meeting of the Warwick School Committee is May 13th, 5:30 p.m. at Vets. Mr. Wiggins, am I missing anything?
You got a lot in that short period of time, Ms. Galligan. It's a lot of information.
Yep.
So,
And I think the hands are starting to be raised, and I'm definitely one of them. So we're going to go with Alyssa first.
Sean Galligan. Will there be a link? Will there be a link for parents that can't make it in person? And how is the best way to get that?
So there will be a YouTube link for you to watch the meeting live as it's occurring, or at a time that's more convenient to you, just like all of our other meetings. If there's a question that you cannot say, you can't, excuse me one second, my family is super respectful of that on a meeting.
Yeah, we're having a casual meeting tonight, Sean, just to reiterate that piece again.
I think it's okay.
So I'm just nervous that they don't have clothes on. Yeah.
Come on.
Hey, Jason.
Hi.
Hey, Hey, JC.
Doesn't want
Please
to
look
be-
at
All right. Stop being rude. Stop being rude. All right. I got.
No, on mute.
But yes, Alyssa, there are, you can go onto WPS, the YouTube channel, and you can see the school committee meeting.
And Alyssa, for questions, you can send that directly. You can send any questions directly to all of us on the school committee. Unfortunately, we are unable to read any statement from the stage that's been made very clear to us from previous meetings. But we certainly, if you have questions or concerns, you're right.
Yeah. We'll get it. We'll get it into the record of the meeting.
We'll do what we'll get it in. We can't read it verbatim.
But ideally, if you can go in person and ask your question, then that's the best way to do it.
We can't answer questions during the meeting, but if you just are stating your position, it could be as simple as 60 seconds. I'm Alyssa Breyer. I'm here tonight requesting that you please reconsider the total number of TAs that you're cutting. We want to make sure every room is staffed accordingly. With Warwick special education population, it's imperative that you guys are really critiquing this.
Okay, thank you.
So for everyone on the phone, and I think this will be one of those times where I'd recommend that, to get a note out to everyone on our distribution list. I did take the day off on the 17th because I know what will happen if I don't take the day off on the 17th, that I will not be able to attend that meeting. So, but I'm going to need some support as I go up for a couple things. First, we have a very small allocation. It's like around $500 for us to be able to have a speaker every year. We normally have that speaker in the May to June time period, and we want to be able to make sure that we can keep those funds as a starting point. The rest of it is much larger, like Sean mentioned. Are we still going to have the TAs that we need to support programs? Are we still going to have the teachers that we need to support programs? There's going to be cuts that are going to be recommended, and special services, Sean's right, and you've said it before to me too, that this is a tough area and people don't understand it.
They don't get it.
They think that the money just comes from, I don't know what tree they think it comes from, but it doesn't come from a lot of them.
And this being, like Ms. Scott said, this being different this year with this budget, we have members who are not even from the city board. They don't know any of our schools, but they only see a line item. They don't see people, and they don't see the impact. And that's why it's incredibly important for people to speak. We understand we're in a fiscal situation here, but we also need to take care of our kids. We need to take care of them. And the TA element is, not that the teachers are very, very important, obviously, But to that, we realized during the conversation with some of the councilmen and some of the people who were asking questions, they absolutely, my wife's a TA, a special education TA, that's what she does. Like, they have no idea what she does, or how much of an impact she has on me. And I have to consistently explain to them how my wife comes home with them. Like, she still loves those kiddos, but she works hard. And it's so very important that, and that we need that this group is a huge group to advocate for, obviously, that, and we're it's up to all of this group. We went into hospital today and we said, come, please come.
And the example that I'm going to give to what Sean just said, and Sean, I'll go over to you after that, is I had mentioned during the school committee meeting last night that at Tollgate High School, we had at least 3 students that had participated in the Alibis, which is their school play this year, did a great job. The only reason those students were able to be there is because Tollgate was making sure that there were TAs covering while those students were at play practices, while those students were on stage, while those students were getting costumes, practiced lines with them, did everything they possibly could to help those students be successful. And you can't have as much participation by our students that are being supported by special services unless you have both teachers who are willing to fight for these students and TAs that are willing to be there for those students so that they can participate with all the rest of the student body. And the play that they did is a really fine example of how that works, which I probably will be mentioning in front of the budget committee. So I just think, for everybody here, if you can't attend, at least get some feedback and comments over to me. Caitlin will make sure that all of us have my email address. We already have it up on the special education, site where there's a link into the special education advisory committee. But it's really important that I have all the feedback too on where you see the value here, both on the teachers, the TAs, the team that's here for special services to help all of us. And it's tough, and nobody understands that.
I think a great example of this unified basketball tournament.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
I coached it I coached the Sherman team. They didn't have a coach, but the amount of TAs, teachers that were involved in that, they couldn't function. We were in Sherman. It was a little different because it was kind of like throwing together with just myself and 2 other volunteers, but there was 2,000 people in that building, and and those TAs and those teachers just volunteered.
Absolutely.
Oh no, yes.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It was great,
It was
yeah.
awesome. It was. I mean.
And I coached unified basketball at the school. So it was like really fun.
For me, it was most incredibly rewarding
Yeah.
to do. But I was very incognito as I was dressed very poorly, and I tried to stay away from everything. But we had a blast. But that's it's really important that we know like what these people are doing. To your point, outside of just the classroom.
Absolutely. So to that point, that actually wasn't going to be one of my comments now, obvious that you brought that up. I'm wondering, Sean, this being at school committee yesterday, it was absolutely wonderful to see just how much recognition that there was across the board for all of the sports teams, that we did some of the recognition for the teams for special services and that kind of thing, which amazingly no one sent in a recognition related to the basketball games and things like that. But I think that brings up maybe something we could consider moving forward. Some of these special, these unified teams aren't always going to have a championship. You've got teams at the high school level, now at the grade school and the middle school level, and they're never going to win a state championship. But they're working their hearts out to participate. I'm wondering if there's a way that moving forward, we could think about how we can best recognize those teams too.
Well, we could certainly recognize the vets and women and Tollgate and Pilgrim teams, and then maybe as the year goes on, starting in the upcoming school year, maybe we one team a month or something to get them in there and get them recognized. Absolutely. I just wanted to go back and touch on. I think Sean and I really need the WSEAC Special Education Advisory Committee to help us educate people on special education particularly the folks that we go on to and request money from. I'll give you an example of why we need your help so bad. Sean and I had to speak about how we could at any point throughout the year have a student come in and require a one-to-one TA, and they couldn't believe it. They're like, well, that probably doesn't happen all year long. It's like, no, actually, in January, we had a student come in. And so they're amazed that we can't just go, we need 200 employees like the police department, and that's how we operate. And then, we have a little overtime, so let's hire another 2 or 3 people. No, they don't understand that if a child comes into the district, moves into the district, CYF placement, etc., that if their IEP dictates a certain need, that we then have to go and source somebody. So the more people that can come out and help and educate the decision makers above us with the finances, the better we'll be as a district, because right now the thought is they're just wasting money. And in some instances, I'm not going to lie to you. Do I think prior committees and administrations probably were a little frivolous with money? Absolutely. They were careless. And in some instances, people might think that this existing committee is careless with money. But I digress from all that. We are the second largest population in terms of the state for students requiring special services. And that, for some reason, I'm having a difficult time conveying on to those above us. I don't know what else to do to make them realize that you can't just look at per pupil cost between Cranston and Warwick and go, Cranston has 1,500 more kids than you guys, but yet their cost per student is lower. You guys should be at the same, if not lower. And it's like, but special education, that usually costs a little bit more money. A special educator is slightly more than a regular teacher, because they have to have additional credentials. And so that's whatever you guys could do to help us out. I need that assistance.
So Sean, I think where it might be helpful, and I don't know if everyone else needs this understanding too. I think I understand very basically from what you just explained how the Finance Commission is going to be working and things like that. Is the only opportunity for us to influence that at the meeting on the 17th? Are there conversations or letters or something or phone calls that we should be making to those members of that commission beforehand so that they understand that? I think we need to understand how we can be active to help.
Yes.
I'm trying that because I don't know what to say, because you're looking at a group here who showed up tonight because they're here. You're taking time away from your families and stuff because you're here to help. And also to get help too. So I think you have a great group in front of you, and also we have people listen to this call afterwards too.
Yeah. So the Budget Commission is going to be subject to the Open Meetings Act. Now, so that means that their meetings will be public. It sounds as though those meetings will be taking place at the Sawtooth Building in the community room.
Okay.
But at this moment in time, you know as much as myself, Mr. Wiggins, and the rest of my colleagues on the school committee and the school administration. It is so run and gun, shoot from the hip type of situation right now. It's very difficult. So it's believed that it's going to take place at the Sawtooth Building in the community room. The $1 million question: are they going to allow for public comment? Is their public comment going to allow for a Q&A, or is it going to be a public comment much like we have, where it's you get 3 minutes, come and say what you want, but so we don't violate the OMA, there's not going to be any back and forth. So I don't know the answer to your question today, Ms. Cardillo, but I can get you an answer. But what I can say is when those meetings are public, it's very important that whatever opportunity is provided to us, we capitalize on it. I can assure you that I will be at those meetings advocating for each of these expenses that they may deem not necessary. Because remember this, they have no tie. Right now, there are 3 people that we know of, 2 of which don't live in the city of Warwick, so they can come in and do whatever. And our appointment has ties to someone who does require special services currently out of Hoxie. So that person is very much in tune with this, and I'm hoping that we get that fight that we need from our appointee. But that's only 1 of 5. And this commission, they report to nobody. They come in, and then when they leave, they're liable to nobody. So we're going to really all need to band together as a community and go in and fight for our each individual interests. respectfully, yes, they've got to balance the budget. Yes, whatever they do might drive up. I got a parrot to my left here copying me. So, yeah, I'll leave it with that, Miss Cardillo.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. So, okay, so before we move to anything else, what other questions do we have for either Sean or Sean related to the budget, the meeting on the 17th, anything like that?
Like he said, the location for the meeting, is it Veterans
It's
Memorial?
fast. Yep, I got you.
And I'm not familiar with the school. Is it in a particular?
Yeah, it's right off of Wilshire Road.
I know where it is,
That's
but
right.
like, do I just go through the front?
Just
door?
right to the
Well,
front,
okay,
right
front
to the
door, you
front
will
door,
not
right
miss
to
it.
the, right
Okay.
to
There's
the
tons of
auditorium.
signs.
Yep,
Okay, so.
Yep, you
You'll-
open the door and go straight in.
Yeah, and
Thank
there'll
you.
be an agenda. You'll know you're in the right door because there'll be an agenda right on the front door. But basically, the building goes around in a bit of an L. And in that middle of that L where the driveway kind of does a rotary
Yeah.
thing, the entrance to into the auditorium is right there.
Okay.
What other questions can we help out? Oh, I have one more too that maybe one of you can answer. You said we'll have time to at least make a statement. So is that statement period at 5:30, or do we need to come even earlier in order to line up the statement, that kind of thing?
That statement's at 5:30.
5 yeah.
Okay,
Could you, the thing we published, correct?
Yep.
So you'd be able to speak on what you see as published.
And we need, because there's going to be a lot of people there. Are we going to need to sign in beforehand for speaking, or?
Nope, no sign in. As soon as the podium's available, you can step up one after another. I wouldn't don't be shocked that there's not a lot of people there. Last year, we passed a $192 million budget, and there were 4 people in the audience, 5 people.
Maybe we can change that this year with people in the room, hopefully. So maybe
60% of the city.
So,
60% of the city's tax dollars are spent that night. And last year, it was Darlene Necco, the Warwick Beacon, and I believe the Warwick Post, and their Jacob Midori, I believe. Caitlin might have been there. Caitlin, did you go to our budget hearing last year?
I usually go to most of them. I don't remember if I went last year. Possible.
Yeah, they were like, and so all the people that were online like flipping out. I'm like, you weren't even there. You didn't come. Like that was your chance. So like, why do you come?
No, I think this will be, because there's a lot of anxiety in the schools right now with the TAs and the teachers. Actually, Chairman Gallagher sent out a really, really nice letter to all of our educators and our staff about rumors and things like that, just to kind of calm the storm, because really, to his, what he's just talking about with this committee, we really don't know what we don't know. We don't know anything at this point. We don't know positions that we don't know at this point. So, but what is really what happens, as you can imagine, during a deficit, during all of these discussions in public and at the council, that really resonates in the schools. So, within the last 24 hours, Warwick, Max, Cedar Hill, Lippet, Hudson, all had major concerns, right? That they had heard this, and that, and none of it is true. So, I think the hope is that for Chairman Gallagher's email today, that we will have a good presence by the TAs and the teachers to advocate, for what they do. And how important it is, because we know. But again, those who have not been named, I probably got to quote Harry Potter, but there's we only know 3 of them. 2 of them we don't know. We expect the other 2 not to live in the city. Well, they don't know Warwick, they don't know our schools, they haven't walked in them other than our appointee. So I think that's important. I will say the superintendent's appointee is Garrett Draper, and is Joe Crowley, who's our general finance director. He is familiar with the schools. He's familiar with special education. He's familiar with DAs. He's not somebody like, I know Ms. Coons does live in the city, but even though Mr. Crowley's from Cranston, he understands the absolute need for special education, and he's stated it on multiple occasions. So we do have 2 advocates on both the superintendent side and our side. And then but the mayor has the 3 appointments that will provide the, the quorum.
I do have like a silly question. Is there like in the program structure, is there like a minimum ratio anywhere, or is it just like per student? Like, so if you're running a like a life skills high school classroom, it's like, oh, in this classroom we maintain this minimum staffing ratio, or is it just kind of per? Does that make sense?
So if it's a smaller classroom, like a self-contained classroom, they can only start there with 10 students. They can go up to 12 throughout the year, based on our teacher's contract, but no more than 10.
And then for like
But
parents.
there's no like structure for
It's
like
just, like,
how many
individual.
adults that means. It's just students.
And then like typically, just like as a parent, because obviously there is a minimum number of adults that it takes to make a program run and a classroom run, and there's a minimum amount of adults it takes to make a building run. But like as a parent, it's hard to know what to advocate for, or like kind of how best to advocate. Does that make sense? So like for example, like without specifics, my child had a tough time at recess, and you think like how many kids are outside at recess, and how many adults are outside at recess, and lunch is hard, and people have to take lunch breaks, and all of those types of pieces. And I think that just is, that's one school and one example. But again, really like how to best advocate for that. And that's a silly example. Just in the grand scheme of things, if it's not written anywhere.
But,
do you know what I mean?
adults
Like,
is-
Yeah, this is not a silly
Yes.
question.
But
No, not at all.
like, but that's one school, and I'm sure that happens in every school every single day across, the whole city. But for me, like working in a different school system, like there is a lot of IEPs specify a specific ratio and would be out of compliance. And I feel like in our district, that's beneficial because then we can say like, oh, if we don't do this, then we're legally out of compliance. These are those repercussions versus, and I feel like that gets attention because then there's like legal action in those things.
Yes.
We've
Yes.
typically worked under like best practice of a lot of our self-contained classrooms have one teacher and 2 TAs.
Yes.
In the past, they were just one teacher, one TA. And it was proven to not be effective, hence why we added the additional second TA. But, it's just, we can see it hasn't worked. And that's, why we need it. There's unfortunately nothing set in stone, like in a TA contract as to how many. But I think that's what gets missed a lot of times is that they're like, oh, well, you only have 7 kids and you have 3 adults, but that's
What are the needs in the
one adult per
classroom?
student at all times, and then you're short staffed. So it's
Caitlin hit the nail on the head right there.
It's hard because you need to look at the need.
Yes.
Student need must dictate our employment, and that is the hurdle that we need to overcome in educating the people challenging our dollar request. They don't understand that. They think 20 kids, 1 teacher, that's enough, right? No. It's what are the student needs? And if we have to have more TAs, more special educators in Cranston, and our per pupil cost is higher, then so be it. So Caitlin hit the nail right on the head, and that's what we need help with. And if you guys have any ideas as educators on how we can educate people, we would love that.
Well, I could definitely just speak to that. My son, there's 6 kids in the class. There's the teacher and the 2 TAs, and it makes a huge difference. Like the leaps he's made. This is his first. He's in kindergarten, and it hasn't even been a year, and he's doing things that I never. I'm shocked when his teacher. We have that Class Dojo app, and she'll send me pictures and videos of him doing things that I never even thought he could ever do that. So it definitely helps that he has so much one-on-one opportunity for someone to really take the time to teach him things every day.
Hope, thanks for joining. Nice to see you again. Alyssa?
My son's at a case so late because I'm so
Oh, Alyssa, you're cutting out a little bit.
said my son's in a facility with kids, and he also has 1, 2, 2 kids. It does make a world of difference having an extra TA. Sometimes his needs are more than the other kids because he's in a K1 too, so he has 3 kids in his class are in first grade, kids in his class are in second grade. He's actually there's only one other kindergartner. So of course their needs are going to be more than the 8-year-olds or second grade students. So having the other team, not just one team, but two teams in the room really allow for a kid that has more needs, like my son, to have the attention and one-on-one guidance. Sometimes he needs hand over hand. I mean, if you don't have a teacher in the room that teaches hand over hand, then that's a big part of learning that he can't get access to, just because there's someone that can't help him hand over hand, scissors or over the head. So those things are like, wouldn't happen if there wasn't the extra cheering. So those are the things that Sean wants to hear at the meeting, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, exactly.
And there's definitely a difference when, you know, you have a staff member who is absent, and we know we don't have very many subs these days, and it's being short-staffed and being down a person, you can really feel that difference of not having enough people to really run effectively.
So I appreciate everybody's comments tonight. You know, I think this will help tell the story. I just encourage you, if you can come to the 17th, then please do. If you can't, because life happens to all of us in this space, then at least make sure that you get a hold of me, get a hold of Caitlin somehow, so that we can tell your story as best as we can within the, I don't know whether there's going to be time limits on the comments.
The normal, right? Normal
3
minutes.
I will speak very quickly, right along with us, but I think hopefully we can get enough of us who are coming to represent and maybe help share these stories as a starting point. But there'll need to be more. And hopefully, if there's enough community, I would say, support moving forward to keep telling Warwick's story. I don't think that room in the Sawtooth building is going to be big enough if we do this right.
Love that statement.
Yeah, because they only have 60 seats, and the only reason I know is because I've had to find out how many seats I can fit in there. Alyssa.
I've been in Warwick 40 years, and I don't know what the Sawtooth building is.
Where AAA
Where
is.
AAA is, down the block from the city hall. Sean's laughing. This is like a daily.
No, actually, he told me to go to Sawtooth. I had no idea what he meant by it.
It's that big brick building.
AAA.
You're going back
Yes.
on roundabouts.
Yes.
Yes.
You go around
You're
all the
around
roundabouts near City Hall, and then you look for the AAA building.
I'll pick you up for each meeting there, Alyssa.
It's across from Plant City.
And the meeting at the
You go get a
Sawtooth,
milkshake
Yeah,
afterwards.
where the old Burger King is.
the meeting at the Sawtooth building, that's the financial.
So we don't know exactly. We know that they're going to meet there because that's the only information that we really have been given from the mayor on this. We don't know when they'll meet. Like to Sean's point, we
But
don't
it's
know.
the finance committee that
It's
will
this
be.
budget commission.
Budget
This commission, yes.
But the budget is being discussed at Warwick. That's next week on Thursday.
So the Warwick Public Schools is providing the budget to us, and then ultimately, normally, we would have the
Public
ability-
comment, period.
But we'd also have the ability to do more with it, but we can't. There's nothing really we do this commission now. That's another layer of review that happens. And so they may say, all right, well, this number is this, that means we have, well, at a financial standpoint, well, maybe it should be. So there's a lot of, it's like, I think we talked, Sean mentioned it a lot on stage last night. I've only been on 4 months, my first budget. It's an amazing, go through this, and then it goes to that much there. We have to wait till 21st till they have all of their appointees, and that happens on 21st. Hopefully, after 21st, Ms. Gallion will know more about what the structure will look like, because that's all we are right now. We won't know until 21st till they have a full budget commission. Right now, they're only 2 members.
Next, to have those numbers on the first.
Yes, so the mayor's appointees go through the city council. The city council has to approve the mayor's appointee. So that's what was expected to happen on the 21st.
Okay. So if there are no other questions on the budget front, I'd like to shift over to the transition program. So go ahead, Sean.
I just got to say, are there any other questions for the school committee? Because Mr. Wiggins and I were stupid and we've signed up for more than we can actually handle. And with this meeting that got rescheduled tonight, we actually have a Little League board meeting tonight. That starts in 20 minutes. You guys have anything for us?
Yeah, I've got one other item for you other than the budget piece. So this is on the transition program. Just so everybody knows, Steve, who has been our representative from Special Services, who has been going over everything, has openly invited me as well as other parents who have students in that program to monthly meetings so that we understand progress. They've been actively asking for our input. The new teacher who is running that program has, been in the community with the students, not just at those meetings, to make sure that the changes are happening culturally. I'll be honest, I've been pleasantly surprised because a lot of times people will make promises that they don't keep, and that has not been the case here. So so they've been invited to not only go to the school committee meeting, which at their last monthly meeting for the transition program, there was overwhelming support, including from me, to make sure that they asked you that they could present. I think you're going to be very pleasantly pleased with what's going to be presented. I've asked them to repeat for parents who can't make that school committee meeting next month, also to come into the Special Education Advisory Committee to do the same. And if we need to hold 2 meetings to have a speaker, plus them come in, then that's what we're going to do. Most likely at the Sawtooth building that now everybody knows where it is.
Well,
So,
like Ms. Scallon said, the amount of emails that we've gotten about the positive about obviously I think it was very apparent how I felt tonight. I left the stage, and there's those kids that I coach.
yeah, I know.
And I know them very well. When Dan reached out, Dan's email, I'm not going to lie, I started to cry because it was like just to hear how quickly that Steve Carter, that McCaffrey, Joe Napoli, all of these people just rallied around this program in such a quick fashion. The fact that you renamed it, it's renamed. You have a robust website that was Joe did share with that because I kind of got cut off. I wanted to be a part, but I got it was up to them. Done it. I would have been there if he did. But Joe kept me kind of in the loop on everything. The amount of support, I can't wait to see what they have.
It's very thorough.
I'm so happy that, I'm happy for those children, those young men, young men and women who deserve more than pizza boxes, getting more than pizza boxes. And I'm glad thankfully the culture has changed in that classroom.
Yeah, and I will say that I don't normally talk about anything personal, but my daughter toured the transition classroom last week and got to see a lot of her friends. I know almost every student in that transition program right now just because of working with Pilgrim as well as Tollgate. And, she liked what she was seeing. Took her a little bit on one item that I'm going to mention in a minute, but it was enough to pull her over because she's been she came to the WSEAC meetings and understood that there were challenges that need to be hit, and is happy that that's going along with too. The caveat I'm about to give to both of you, and I'm going to mention this to Steve also, is that I'm hearing in the community, not just from the transition program, that there were problems with getting job assignments, but I'm also having parents contact me now to say that there's problems at the high school level also, that it's challenging to get opportunities for students, that teachers are having to go out and practically beg for when students do their career aspirations on their map, for them to be able to then match with members of the community that can help students get those experiences. I think there actually may be a larger scale problem that I'm hearing, and I don't know what, especially in light of all the budget discussions, to discuss that can be solved in a larger scale piece, but I'm telling you that anecdotally I'm hearing it may not just be the transition program where we need to give that effort to on the job side and the experience side. So I think that's something to mull over. I can share some examples with you separately, but that we might need to think about a more holistic approach.
Yeah, I have not heard it.
And I didn't get contacted until this weekend, just to be honest with everybody. So
I think the transition program opened up a lot of eyes.
It did.
To programs that maybe have just kind of gone through the motions, opposed to maybe what they're doing now.
Exactly.
Which is probably instead of making it stagnant.
Exactly. Yeah. So I know both of you have to go. I'm positive the next meeting will probably be in the Sawtooth building. TBD on the date. I'm going to work on that with Gina over in that building just to get things scheduled, but we'd be delighted to have both of you attend and continue to support. You know,
And Leah also supports Buddy. Her son's visiting from Texas.
Yeah, she's fabulous.
Yeah, she sends her regards. She needs the credit.
I know she does. And Sean needs time with his kids, and you do too, and all of us.
I haven't seen my son.
I'm watching him right now. I'm slightly.
I saw Quinny shooting baskets before I left. So.
Well, they're in there right now, Sean, with you because they love you and they want to see you and spend time with you, and that's really sweet to see.
Absolutely. Thank you guys all for everything that you do, and please come out on the 17th, and then again when the Budget Commission starts to meet. We need your help.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you
And always
both.
reach out. Always.
Thank you.
And speak with you separately. So, yeah. Okay, cool.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
I guess I'll see
We're
you.
still continuing the rest of the meeting.
Yes,
by the
yes.
way.
We're the only. Leave
I'll see you. I'll see you in 15 minutes, Wiggins.
Can't wait, Mr. Galligan. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad you got in the building.
They're having internal meetings right now with just the parents at the present moment. So what we're doing to respect the anonymity of some of the discussions that are having there, and I thought it was a really good idea from special services and from the parents, is that we're inviting them to come into WSEAC. So the teacher of that program actually would have been here tonight, but to my recollection, it's her birthday. So unfortunately she could attend. I did see her on Sunday. And I had attended the meeting last week that she had gone through a lot of their progress. At the last meeting that we had, we were urging them at that point to go over things that they've done so far. But just to give all of you a preview, there is a new site going up for the transition program to explain to the community what that program is all about. They have a new name for the program called Bridge, which Sean had mentioned. So they're going to go over the acronym and everything. They have a brochure now to explain what that program is all about. And then from a cultural standpoint, they've made great strides in giving the kids more confidence that are in that program of what opportunities there are out in the community, and have worked a lot with the community to bring in new employers to help get new experiences. And they will go over that on the school committee meeting, which I believe is, I'll look it up in a second on my phone.
May 13th.
May 13th. So I would encourage everybody on this phone, if you are able to go in person to the school committee meeting or dial in that night, that would be a really good one to settle in and hear that presentation. If you can't, we've invited them to also update members of this committee too. Same thing. And I'll be for that date that I'll do for the May meeting will be coordinated with them so that they can attend.
And I'm employed in the field of master's in education services, so it would be a resource.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
I don't know. But
Absolutely.
So, my son is very young, and I don't know that you would be in that program, but just as a community member, I'm interested.
Oh, that'd be great. So, and I'm sure I am real positive you probably will welcome to help.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Oh, I'm pretty positive they will. Any other questions or comments? I know both Sean's needed to leave, so because they do have a life. But is there anything else that I should pass along to them for questions or anything like that? Anybody on the phone? Anyone in the room?
I have a question. I don't know if anyone here would be able to answer, or one of the Sean's could maybe answer later. I had a question involving busing and kind of the norms around that. My son's at an age where he's kind of interested in the bus, but I have concerns because he's nonverbal and he can't talk and he's highly at risk. I'm just very afraid of him being abused of some kind, and I'm not able to know what's happening. So I just had some questions in regards to norms and protocols and things like that within busing. I don't know if anyone here can answer those questions, or what would be the right avenue to answer those questions.
So I think in general, special services should probably give you a more holistic view. I think anyone on here, and including with Caitlin, can share some of their own experiences with the busing situation. I'm happy to talk to you after the meeting on that piece, but I will say publicly that my daughter started going on the bus with a serious medical condition at age 3. So, and were able to give us very good reassurances that she would be safe and that they would make sure that she was taken care of on that bus. So I'll be happy to go through my personal experience on that one, just so that you have it. If there's anyone else who just at a high level, stress the high level, don't share the medical piece, wants to share their own experience, then I'll be fine. Alyssa, go ahead.
I have this personal scenarios, but the same thing that she's apprehensive about if people have non-verbal children. So anything that goes on with they can't tell them. I feel like people don't understand that level of anxiety for a parent, because if something happens, they can't tell us. They're used to it. They can't tell us that, you know, sitting next to a kid that's punching and hitting next to the water. So it's not just the adult involvement, it's also the kid involved.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I understand for the stuff, because I understand for a reason.
Still cutting out a little bit, Alyssa. I'm so sorry. I don't know, maybe you need to move your laptop just a bit closer. I have this problem with my laptop all the time. So.
Just saying that I have yet to put my son on the bus for that same reason. The apprehension that doesn't have the same thing about him. And you don't really know if he's being taken care of properly, received properly, because he can't come home and toy these other kids. So it's been, you know, for parents of the nonverbal children, it's an extra layer of anxiety. And, you know, when you go through something, you know, because there's no awareness on these buses, there's no accountability for anything that happens, not just with an adult, but with a child, you know, or just with the bus. So you get to talk to what you think. So this is
Alyssa, you're cutting out a little bit. I'm so sorry.
I can't hear you. I'm so sorry.
Wrap it up.
So, but you know, maybe you and Alyssa can have some chats. I will tell you when I went through that experience, and so can I can at least vouch for me. I can't vouch for anything else. That there were all sorts of conversations before my kid went on that bus. So in terms of safety, in terms of, you know, what that safety plan was going to be, what was the protocol actually going to be if something happened on the bus and they needed to call an ambulance, or there was an incident on the bus that was, you know, they needed extra support, how was that going to be handled? And all of that was discussed and agreed to before she ever got on the bus.
And who would I have?
I had that discussion with special services.
And you can start with whoever your special ed teacher is, and just talk to her, you know, so that you want to have discussions about the bus.
Absolutely.
Split in place. There's other supports as well.
Or also the what's the acronym for the, is it LFA or
LEA?
LEA, yeah.
Yes.
Getting it,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, she can
that's
help you.
another person too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, you should be, I'd encourage all of you that if you're in that situation, if you have fears, which are very, very reasonable, by the way, and there's no question you should. And I was feeling the same way. It was like horribly nightmarish when I went through it. And like sick to my stomach when I went through it. And the thing that did was to make sure that her medical team outlined what the needs were. So talked to the district and we worked together as a team to come up with a plan. And that was really important. So that it was a conversation and that you went up and spoke with them and said, this is what needs to happen. This is what the help I need. How can we help meet the needs of the student? So that's how I probably recommend that you have that conversation. And definitely agree with Caitlin to start with the teacher, make sure LEA is involved. If you need to have anyone else from the special services office, if it gets to that point, then you should. But you should have confidence when you're putting your child in transportation. And that was not that was a really good question.
Yeah, because now that I have the baby, I'm getting her up with me every morning, taking him to school. I'm waking her up from her nap to go pick him up from school, and it's just gotten really hard. But I just, like we said, the fears are so real. Like you know, it's to the point where I inspect his body like every day because I'm like, has anyone hurt him? Like, you don't know. He can't tell me anything.
And that's another thing too, knowing that even if your child is verbal, the saying this to everybody, that doesn't mean that you don't have the exact same fears.
Yeah.
So you should be understanding in the classroom, how are safety measures being handled? If there is a challenge, how is that going to be managed for your child? Your child, a lot of our children are still learning their basic life skills, how to communicate, even if they can't communicate, how would they communicate in an alternate fashion? Tell them they need a sensory break or whatever the situation is. And you should be understanding that from your IEP team. And if they haven't told you how that piece is managed in the classroom or giving you that reassurance, or maybe you need more reassurances and they need plans, that's the discussion you need to make sure you have with them. So I don't know, Caitlin, you have any other feedback or anything?
Yeah, I just thought I'd ask to see which direction the question should go.
Yeah, exactly. And as long as we're on that subject, does everybody have a copy of the procedural safeguards and things like that, so you know what the processes are within the school district and things like that? Okay, so is that up on our site, Caitlin?
I don't know.
So we'll need to make sure to get to everybody on the call.
What did you say it was called?
Your procedural
safeguards.
safeguards, so your rights as a parent. You should get a copy of them. We offer a copy of them at every team meeting.
And there was also a presentation, I think it was last year, I don't think we did it this year, on actually how the process works with the school district. And I think we can send out that link again, you know, to whatever meeting that was in the presentation, and that will probably help too. Because it's a really complicated process. And honestly, I always feel bad for the parents. I certainly felt bad for myself, quite frankly, having to go into meetings when you're just trying to learn the process and you're sitting there trying to advocate for your child in front of 7 people that you've never met, and sometimes more.
Yeah.
It's really, really tough.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. That's why we're here. So we have 10 minutes left. There's one area where I definitely need help. That's on the old business category. So, and I'm hoping somebody's going to raise their hand and go, sure, I'll help you. But Caitlin, let's go over our acronym resource because you've done an amazing job.
Yes, very good job.
If there is anything, I don't know if I stepped out for a minute, but if I heard that you were kind of able to see it beforehand. But if there's anything else that anybody thinks of that is not on there that they would like included, or a little bigger.
Great job on this.
Oh yeah, I'm so happy. This is amazing.
Or if there are things that are like listed on here as like, you know, defining what they are, but not, I included some for definitions. But if there's a definition for something that you want described further, we can do that too. I did add in, as we were talking, the individualized learning plan, a little bit more detail down further in the definitions section.
Maybe we add 504 in there.
Okay.
And maybe also for the specific acronyms, you know, when we have a chance, if we could add a little bit of definition on what each program actually entails, because I know when I first saw these definitions, I was completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think also for me, like, that's what chart.
Yeah.
I have a better idea now, but I'm like a new parent in the district, and my child went to a different school in a different district, and I feel like relearning everything and kind of like what their spectrum of supports was versus a new place.
Yeah. So yeah, if anybody, I will share this as well, and when I send it out, but if anybody thinks of anything that is not on here, like I just added, I'll define for
That would
our
be
personal
great.
literacy plan, I'll put that on there. If there's anything else, I'll add the continuum piece to it, but if there's any other edits, changes, it can be a living document, I'll just update it as we go and add things.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, and again, some of the definitions don't make sense because, and especially when it's the first time that you're looking at them. Like, for example, a few years ago, I wouldn't have had a clue what a transition service is, so.
And then some of the, like IEP team members, that kind of goes over just the various different people that might be at meetings.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Exactly.
I think that's the end there.
So Caitlin, what help do you need, to make edits, and additional suggestions? How else can we help you?
I think as people view it, or anybody, listening or here thinks of something that you're like, oh, that should be included, or, I think people might need more information on this, just shoot me an email or send it my way. I'll be happy to add it.
All right. Did anybody raise their hand? Yeah, I thought I saw a hand raised.
Just gonna end up just emailing to him. But I don't have it in front of me, but like my first year at Wealth, I was in the H2A class, and I never knew what that meant the whole time. And then in our second year, we were in an IASC class, and I ended up asking the teacher what that meant. But I think one of them was on there, and one of them was. I just don't have it in front of me. I think IASC would be a good what they could think curriculum to special needs curriculum. The IASC class.
Yes, so the IASE class is the intensive academics special ed classroom. And then I think the other one you said was the AA.
HDA, I think it's called.
So, is it AAP?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, adaptive abilities program. So when they're younger, it's the adaptive abilities. Some of the older classrooms, students typically take the alternate assessment.
Yeah, it's one of them was on there, one of them wasn't. I think it was from the appendix.
Okay.
So I think we're in the table membership. All right, for this one. For presentations, I really do want to have a speaker in May or June. I got to be really honest, I need some help because I'm working full time. I've resigned from another board position that I have, but it's going to take me a couple months to extricate myself fully because I wanted to spend more time in this space, especially with all the changes in the budget, with all the needs that there are in the district. I chose to spend my time here, but that doesn't mean I don't need help in the interim. And that also doesn't mean that Caitlin doesn't need help too, because we're the only two people here, and we want to make sure that all of you are having a good experience. So in order to hold the speaker, I need somebody to at least help me coordinate. I can't always make calls during the day. Sometimes I can and sometimes I can't. It depends on the particular day. And sometimes I don't even know what day I'm going to have before I will walk through the door, like most teachers in the world. So if any of you are able to lend a helping hand, that, if it's to help make calls or even send an occasional email and be there to the night in May or June when we have early June when we have the speaker, I'd really appreciate the help. Oh, that'd be awesome. Thank you so much. I'll coordinate with you and we have email. Just make sure I have your contact information after. Yeah. Who else raised their hand? Alyssa? Alyssa, thank you.
Some let me know, like make calls on the day, emails, no problem.
That would be awesome.
And like you said earlier, we have $500 to spend, so.
Then we will spend our $500.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some quick planning. So we'll figure out, Alyssa, Veronica, we will figure out how to make that happen. And we might need some suggestions from people as we're going along for speakers to reach out to. So there might be a few emails over the next weeks or so to get help. Caitlin, what help do you need?
I think I'm good.
Okay. So raise your hand when you need
Yes.
help. It's not just me, obviously. Yeah, but Caitlin has, you've had a new job this year and that kind of thing. So definitely we want to be able to support you too. And you've been wonderful with help. Just ridiculously wonderful. So I want to make sure that you're feeling like you have enough support too. These are hard things.
Okay.
Okay.
Before we leave it, can we acknowledge anybody? Your time, David?
I think we do. We have a lot. And
I did want to share too, I won't put it up here because it gets glitchy and I know we don't have a lot of time. But I'll include it in the email that I send out tomorrow. But the ABLE accounts is something that Bride is going to start having to push out. So there's a brochure about like the accounts. So there are savings accounts for students. So I'll send all the information about that as well. But it's another thing to look into, another way to save money for students.
And I am going to see if we can have a speaker come in to explain ABLE accounts. My daughter actually has one, and see if we can do that. At least one I made. That would be a stop into a meeting, not the full speaker. So and I'm already asking my employer, but they don't offer, special needs trust and things.
Right.
So we might have to do a little poking on who will be a good person to stop in to explain those. But for now, Caitlin's right. We've got the 2 links.
And then, do you want me to jump into the recognition?
Yes, before we got
yes.
so we could get through it in 4 minutes. We got through it in 4 minutes at the school.
Well, there
committee
were 2 that I did receive previously that I'm not sure if you already did it at the last meeting. There were 2 Hoxie.
I got the 2 Hoxie at
Okay.
the school committee meeting, so.
But
And
were those at the last?
No,
Okay, I'll do that one too.
yeah, they were only the 325, 326.
Yep, those
Yeah,
were
those were the
most
ones
recent
that I
ones.
mentioned.
Yeah, okay, so back in a couple months ago, it's been a while since we've met, so this one was from Amanda Rogers. She recognized Stephanie Upham, Hoxie one-on-one TA. Stephanie has been working with our child for 2 years now. She was above and beyond for our child. Due to our child having some substantial delays in medical conditions, we feel so much more relieved knowing Stephanie is there with him to help him throughout his day. She has such a special way with our son that she understands his mood so well and doesn't become hardened or bitter by the bad days. She is calming and restorative for our child in times of difficulty. She keeps us updated daily and is constantly reminding us of the things we too often forget, whether it's Spirit Week, Cat Day, or special event in our school. She also makes herself available for extracurricular activities child wants to participate in, like unified basketball. She's right there with him on the court. I cry every time I get to see it because we never thought we'd see our guy doing the things he does today with a smile that would blow the roof off. There are no words of recognition that would do Stephanie justice. She's one of the greats, and we hope she receives the recognition she rightly deserves. So congrats to Stephanie. Amanda Rogers also recognized Carly Evans, a Hoxie special educator. Ms. Evans' first year at Hoxie has already been a godsend. She is knowledgeable in her role as a special educator, energetic, compassionate, honest, and communicative with parents, making them truly feel a part of their child's school life, which can often be hard for parents to experience. She celebrates with us in the successes, no matter how small, and shoulders our students' struggles with us in a really great way. Ms. Evans has passion behind what she does, which makes it so very obvious she was created for this. We are very blessed to have her as our child's teacher. Congrats to Carly. Frank Galligan recognized the Warwick Neck IES team. The Warwick Neck IES staff has been praised many times over the last few months by parents for the ongoing efforts and care being provided to their children. Continuous communication, attention to detail with student accommodations and daily notes home, and supportive student growth have all been specifically mentioned to the principal as reasons for the praise. Most notably, the staff safely and successfully supported children within the IES program during not one, but 3 separate evacuations from the school due to gas leaks over the last 2 weeks. One particular evacuation required quick transport of students to a secure location off-site during very inclement weather and a subsequent early dismissal home for the day. For all the stated reasons and more, the Warwick Neck IES staff is one of the hidden gems of Warwick Public Schools, and our children are fortunate to have them. Congrats, Warwick Neck. Margaret Clothier recognized Lindsay Guglietta, Vet's resource teacher, keeping up with my child's needs and contacting me with what his expectations are, where he was at and needed to be, and for making me feel like a part of the team to help my son accomplish goals, mainly with reading, but also with using sports activities at the school as a tool to reinforce positive expectations and experiences to get his work completed. Congrats to Lindsay. Margaret Gauthier also recognized Dee Recor, Vet's guidance counselor. Her ability to go above and beyond to help my family in times of educational and medical issues, and for her interest in always looking for additional information and supports that have turned into lifesavers for both of my kids. She truly cares and wants to make a difference. So Dee. And Courtney Popovsky recognized Kristen Pina, Norwood LEA. Kristen Pina goes above and beyond behind the scenes every day for the entire special education population of Norwood, including both staff members, students, and their families. Many parents have reported that they have left IEP meetings this year feeling a sense of community and feeling heard. She treats every single meeting with care and provides her full attention. Kristen Pina is punctual, organized, and always ready to find solutions when questions arise. She offers her help in numerous ways and is always a positive energy to be around. Norwood and their families are lucky to have her. Congrats to Kristen.
And I had one more that I mentioned at the school committee last night that I'll mention here before we close tonight. That was the entire cast and the TAs and everything for the alibis over at Tollgate High School. 3 students that I will send you the names. I remember 2 out of the 3, and I know I'm missing one. So I will make sure you have all the students' names who got the opportunity to participate. But there were 3 students that were supported by special services who had their first play parts and got to speak their lines. Their TAs put countless hours at Tollgate. They all rotated to make sure those students across the board would have support so that they could participate. Ms. Testa and Darlene Netco both were the sponsors for the play this year for the teachers, and they spent countless hours making sure that play got off without a hitch. The students were very welcoming. They made sure that we're all participating. They had a party afterwards over at Chili's, I think it was, and made sure that all the students were invited who were in special services too. It was just an inclusive and welcoming, and I recognized them at the school committee too.
I have just one.
You have one
I
too.
have one. I don't know her last name, but at Oakland Beach Elementary, her name is Kristen, and she is the woman that runs the bus situation. When kids need to go on this bus, that bus, Boys and Girls Club, Family Tree, she's got the walkie and she's making it happen, and she's just so nice. You know, with all that going on, to still have the time to say a kind word. She's just really nice. She always recognizes me right away, calls for my son right away, and she's just on it. And I'm sure people in that position don't get as much recognition as maybe like teachers and aides, which also deserve recognition, but she is just on it. So yeah, Kristen, unfortunately.
Yeah. So for everyone, that was wonderful. That was such a lovely ending, and also a really good example that everyone who's doing an awesome job to help our students who are being supported by special services deserves to be recognized and appreciated here. Anyone who has been recognized who wasn't mentioned at the school committee last night will be recognized in May at the school committee. This is one of the features that I do when I go to present there. And otherwise, have a wonderful evening. We will make sure you have all the minutes, and please follow up with me if you can help out on the 17th. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody.